يا إله الكون قد أسلمت لك يا إله الكون قد أسلمت لك يا إله الكون قد أسلمت لك رب فاغفر التي محكمك أبتغيها مدحة طاغية.
We want to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah.
Because you enjoin what is right and you forbid what is wrong.
The Quran and from Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam. I'm talking about that.
Makaru makar Allah wallahu khairul makirin. They plan and plot, Allah too plans. Allah is the best of plans.
C'est à partir de ces versets coraniques que l'on peut se faire une idée tout à fait claire.
Was born in the Caribbean island of Trinidad. He is a graduate of the Alimiah Institute in Karachi. He has worked for several years as a Foreign Service Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but gave up his job later to devote his life to the mission of Islam. He lived in New York for 10 years, during which time he served as Director of Islamic Studies for the Joint Committee of Muslim Organization of Greater New York. He lectured on Islam in several American and Canadian universities, colleges, churches, including prisons and community halls. He was Imam for some time at Masjid Darul Quran in Long Island, New York. He has also led weekly prayers and delivered sermon at the United Nations headquarters in New York. He has traveled continuously and extensively throughout the world on Islamic lecture tours, and has also written more than a dozen books on Islam. Dr. Imran Hosein, thank you very much.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Brother moderator, fellow panelists, my distinguished and learned brother Dr. Umar Ibrahim Valilio, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I was a doctoral student at the Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva. I didn't know how much Zionism there was in that institute. And I finally left without defending a thesis that I knew I could never defend in the Zionist Institute. So thank you for conferring the doctorate on me, but I don't have a PhD. Islam, the religion, which came from the Quran and from Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu, I'm talking about that Islam, has zero tolerance for oppression. And the oppressor will begin to receive his reward for his oppression in the grave. Perhaps later on I can give you some description of what kind of punishment he can receive in the grave. The world today is one which is witnessing universal oppression, multidimensional oppression. And if one cannot recognize that, then buy a one-way ticket to the moon. The oppressor created, it didn't happen by accident, a banking system which I perceive to be the centerpiece of his overall system of oppression. Is not the cruise missiles, it's the banking system. That oppressor is identified in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 51. We can speak about that later. It is a Zionist alliance of Zionist Jews and Zionist Christians, a mysterious European alliance, which is about to deliver to Israel, after a long struggle, the status of ruling state in the world. The Zionists want history to end with the Pax Judaica, which would replace the Pax Americana in which we now live, which itself replaced the Pax Britannica, which preceded it. I wrote this book 10 years ago, Jerusalem in the Quran, to explain that end of history. When Israel rules the world tomorrow, then a man would rule the world from Jerusalem, and Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam described that man to us. But this subject belongs to ilmu akhirul zaman, or Islamic eschatology, a subject which Islamic scholars, I don't understand why, are shunning. That man is, of course, Dajjal, the false Messiah. The US dollar is about to collapse. Even a schoolboy knows that. I don't know why the bankers don't know that. If they do, why aren't they talking about it? And why aren't they explaining to us why the US dollar is about to collapse? And how is it that Imran Hosein 15 years ago was saying that the US dollar, not only is it going to collapse, but it must collapse? Is he a prophet? Does he have an angel talking to him? Excuse me for my frustration, but like my brother Omar, we have been voices crying in the wilderness for a long time now. Why must the US dollar collapse? And we said that when it collapses, it'll bring down the US economy, and that will facilitate the transfer of power to Israel. And we said that the present monetary system will then have to be replaced with a new monetary system. This is monetary economics. They don't teach it in the Darul Uloom. And yet we get fatwa on money by people who have never studied modern monetary economics. This knowledge came from the study of the Quran and the study of the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ in the context of ilmu akhirul zaman. If the modern monetary system, which came out of Bretton Woods and which has come out of the International Monetary System and the Monetary Fund, and the Articles of Agreement of that fund, which incidentally, and even Dr. Mahathir did not know it, prohibits what Allah made halal. Allah gave us the gold dinar and the silver dirham, which are in the Quran. But we live in an age today where some people have a less than a passing acquaintance with the Quran. The dinar is in the Quran. Did you know that? And the dirham is in the Quran. Did you know that? And the International Monetary Fund, the Articles of Agreement, prohibit the use of gold as money. Ask them why, they'll never tell you why. And yet we remain like people eating roti chana and going to sleep, and claiming to have scholarship. The money which is coming, I said 15 years ago is going to come, it's already here. When the US dollar collapses, it's going to bring down the whole world of paper money with it. And this bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper money, which of course we can defend anytime anyone wants to challenge us or not, is going to be replaced with electronic money, which will be more haram and more dangerous. I thought it's coming in the future, it's already here. But then imagine my surprise, based on my study of Islamic eschatology. 2 years ago I realized that the same people who have given us paper money in order to rip us off and to reduce Indonesia to abject poverty, so our daughters will now be maids all over the world, our daughters, and be paid the salary of dogs and cats. Our daughters. The same people who are now giving us electronic money in order to have a system where you have espionage to track down every single transaction and to be able to close an account whenever they want to, whenever it's convenient. The same people are going to bring back gold and silver tomorrow as money. I was surprised when I discovered that we're moving towards a tomorrow, maybe 20 years from now, when Israel is going to mint gold and silver. Oh, is going to mint gold and silver? My gosh, Imran, you are behind time. Israel is already minting gold and silver coins. Go to Singapore, you see them on display. I don't want to live to see that day when those who are today waging war on Islam on Israel's behalf are going to bring back gold and silver as money, while we remain ominously silent on this subject, apart from Umar and myself and a few others who've been crying in the wilderness for the last 15 years. So I pray to Allah to take me away from the world before that day comes, because the shame and the disgrace will be too much for me. Let them live who today will not raise a little finger. Not even a little finger will they raise and declare themselves Islamic banking. But they will never say that this paper money is bogus, it's fraudulent, it's haram. And they will never say, let us bring back the gold and silver coins. May Allah keep them alive for that day, so that they may face the shame and the disgrace of a people who have betrayed Allah and His Messenger. What is riba? And how does it oppress? Are questions we could take up later. There are two forms of riba. One is, of course, lending money on interest. And when money is lent on interest, the rich will remain permanently rich forever and ever, and the poor will be imprisoned in permanent poverty forever and ever. Money will no longer circulate through the economy, and even a schoolboy can see that's today's economy. But there's another form of riba which can be identified in taking a piece of paper. And if you have not studied the Bretton Woods Accord, and you've not studied the International Monetary Fund and the history of monetary economics, please remain silent. You take a piece of paper and you print a picture on it and you put a number on it and you give to that picture, because you are God, a fictitious value, because you are God Himself. You create money out of nothing. Well, wait until you reach the grave. Just wait until you reach the grave. That's a form of riba. Or you create something called a bank, take the word Islam out of it, because that's hijacking the name of Islam. And somebody has an account with $1,000 and he writes checks. He goes all around KL writing checks, because they know him, the shopkeepers accept the checks. But you have 1,000 in your account and you write out checks for 20,000? You should go to jail. That's fraudulent. Schoolboy will understand that. Is this fractional reserve banking? Can this be halal? If that is halal, you should buy a one-way ticket to the moon. And so, it is not Islam when you lend money on interest. And it is not Islam when you say goodbye to money with intrinsic value that Allah created, and you create money out of nothing. That can't be Islam. But as Umar was mentioning earlier, there's also something called riba through the back door. And let us speak briefly on that before we end. Can I buy on credit? Of course I can buy on credit. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam bought on credit. Can the shopkeeper raise his price because he's selling to me on credit? The cash price is 5 ringgits. I don't have the 5 ringgits. So the shopkeeper gives me time to pay. But because he's waiting for his money, the cash price now has to be changed to a credit price. So the credit price will now be 10 ringgits because he has to wait for his money. Can a credit price be higher than a cash price? You don't need a degree from some Sharia institute. I mean, this is simple. This is 5 ringgits worth of common sense. That if you have to wait for your money, that the money should increase over time. That's riba. That is the essence of riba. That money grows over time. And so when the bank says, and they call it murabaha, they should define it, put in brackets after murabaha, backdoor riba. And these are our Muslim brothers and sisters, and we should warn them about the punishment. I hope somebody asks me about that question. What can be the punishment in the grave for this bogus betrayal of Islam? If credit price is higher than cash price, the difference between the two would be because of time. That money can increase over time, that's riba. And so Islamic banks should take the word Islam out of it, so long as they are practicing these bogus transactions. What is the solution? Allah gave it in the Quran. In the very last revelation, He says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. The alternative to riba is business. Business. A business transaction is one which embraces risk. You can make a profit or you can suffer a loss. Once there is that risk in the transaction, it's not riba. And number two, don't wait until the enemy, who is now waging war on Islam and who gave us this monetary system that we're now using, don't wait until they return to dinar and dirham, to gold and silver, because the embarrassment will be too great. Let us return to the dinar and dirham now. It's not sufficient to mint it. No. More than that. When you see something which is munkar, you got to respond to it. And the response must be to change it. فَلْيُغَيِّرُهُ بِيَدِهِ. And minting the dinar and dirham to work alongside the munkar and say, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, is not the solution. We have to be more aggressive than that. Ours is the alternative. Yours must go. How do we do that? My suggestion has been, let us build a market in which we'll prohibit the bogus money. Let us build a market in which we'll return to the gold and silver dirham. And Allah does not sleep. And if we're doing the work that is pleasing to Allah, then Allah is the one who charts the course to victory. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Brother Imran Hosein, for most enlightening, such eye-opening remarks on Islamic banking. open the, buka kepada para hadirin lah untuk tanya soalan atau bagi komen dan sebagainya, and direct to your our panelists. Please identify yourself as usual. Anyone? First one, yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hazlinda. I'm actually a reporter. I'm also a victim of Islamic banking. If you ask me, satu penindasan, we don't need that question mark. It's not because of riba, but because of miscalculation by bankers. I lost the house. I'm not ashamed of that, to say that I didn't want to pay because the calculation was wrong. I went to NCF and they calculated that it was 50% more than it should be. NCF is also part of Bank Negara, but unfortunately Bank Negara just mediated the whole thing. PPIM was there. We were there with Maybank. I'm not ashamed to mention them as well. Maybank, Prakash Mukherjee, whoever you name them, they were there. They have been told about this problem for 8 years. What did they do? They did not even recalculate. They were told that there was an extra of 150,000 to 250,000 on the loan given. We took a 375,000 ringgit loan to buy a house, and they charged us 793,000 to pay back within 19 years. I wouldn't mind paying if the calculation was right. It was based on 2 years of 6% and another 17 years of 8.25%. We challenged them to calculate. They failed to. What I'm trying to say here is, can CIMB or the university create an entity for people to go to ask if the calculation is right? We need a roof above our heads. We need a roof to actually sell off to send our children to further their education. Is that wrong? Now, when we brought this up, what the banks did was, they have a lawyer to take the matter to court. I'm sorry, I have to share this in English so that Tuan Imran and probably the others who are more conversant about this matter would be able to respond. And I'm sure that in Azia, you can also feel the whole matter. Now, when we went to UIA to consult another lecturer by the name of Professor Zakaria Man, he gave me the majalah. I went through the trouble to read about Baibi Tabi Najib. It was too difficult for me to mention that term when I first took the loan. BBA was easier, but it was nonsensical. I should have spelled it some other way and put an I at the end. So, when matters were brought to court, because we didn't want to pay and we wrote them thousands of letters to tell them it's wrong. Even the current CEO failed to look at it. Don't want to mention his name because I thought he's someone very respected. However, when it was miscalculated and we got NCF to tell our lawyers that we ought to fight this case, we were told that the current judge listening to such cases was from Bank Negara Malaysia, Rohana. We had even got that matter to her when she was still in Bank Negara. What's the point if we keep circling the same circle? I would like to know, Tuan Imran, what is the punishment for these people? And I would be very happy to lose the house today, but actually feel satisfied with the penance that they will face for their sins. They owe me a lot. They owe Islam a lot. They owe other people a lot. This is not the only case. We're not talking about extra payment. We're talking about wrong calculation. When I went to Bank Negara and I pretended to be an ordinary person at the counter, I told the staff, please calculate for me. She did. And it was excessive. But I can't win a case in court. Why? Because we have people from Bank Negara. For your information, the officer who I had complained the matter to was an ex-Maybank staff. What do you expect? There is hidden loyalty all the time. That is very wrong. You should not be loyal to something that is wrong, something that is evil, something that is Zionist in many ways. I've also taken some photographs this morning before coming here because I was very angry about what was happening. I've given to PPIM photographs of the house of a credit manager who actually handles repossessed cars. Look at the number of cars he has. He's got a 60 Rocker, he's got a Range Rover, and they are all with WV number plates. He has just retired. I am still working and I can't afford that. Alright? So all this is because you have officers who do not know where the line stands. They buy cars for their friends and sell it off. He's got 4 cars. Look at the number plates, they are not ordinary cars. And he says to my sister who lives next door that these are cars given to him for being director on a company. That's bullshit, I'm sorry. Don't come with such cars. I would love to be a director for that company. I'm sure even if I work for that company, I'll get a better car than what I'm driving today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosita. Very eloquently presented her views on criticism system. There seems to be a conspiracy along the way. May I ask either Umar or Sheikh Imran to... Yeah.
Number one.
Punishment for them.
Number one, the bank sold to you on credit at a price higher than the cash price. That's riba, through the back door. The miscalculation is of course something that is to be corrected, and if it's not corrected, that's a grave injustice. Okay? In Surah Zumar of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks and he says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ Allah yatawaffa al-anfusa hina mawtiha. Allah takes the souls at the time of maut. Maut is death. وَالَّتِي لَمْ تَمُتْ فِي مَنَامِهَا. And those whose souls are not taken while they are awake, Allah takes their souls when they are asleep. فَيُمْسِكُ الَّتِي قَضَى عَلَيْهَا الْمَوْتِ. When He takes your souls while you are asleep, He keeps those souls for whom maut is written. وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. And the rest, He sends them back for a determined period of time. There is an ominous message in this verse of Surah which surah? Huh? Right, don't be afraid to say it. For those who engage in oppression, and remember that Allah has zero tolerance for oppression, and riba is oppression, and banking today is oppression. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam cursed all four and said that they were all equally guilty. The one who takes riba, the one who gives riba, the one who records the transactions, therefore working in the banks, and the two witnesses. And he said they were all equally guilty. If you die with the curse of the Prophet upon you, wait for the grave. Now, Allah can take your soul. And when He takes your soul, there will be no medical evidence, no scientific evidence that you are still alive. None. So they will think that you are dead. You died in your sleep, for example. And they will give your body the ghusl. And then they will perform the salatul janazah. And your loved ones are the ones who are going to put your body in the grave, not knowing that you're not dead. And I believe lots of people are dying this way now. I believe that. And when you have been buried, there is no light down there, none. When the last person has reached 40 steps away, then Allah can return the soul, as He did it last night for all of you who are here. So you will wake up from your sleep. But when you wake up from your sleep, you find no light in the room. So you call out to your wife, but you get no answer. You attempt to get up. You can't get up. There's no space to get up. So you begin to panic. You begin to feel. You say, well, I didn't go to sleep in this clothing. I went to sleep in my sarong. What clothing is this? And then you're going to smell the camphor with which they bathe the dead body. And then slowly, slowly, slowly you will realize you've been buried alive, and they forgot to put a cell phone when they buried you. And then you're going to cry out, and cry out, and cry out. But there's no one to hear you. And you will urinate upon yourself, and you will defecate in yourself. And the insects are going to crawl over you, and you can't do anything about it. You can't call for your banker, you can't call for your chauffeur, you can't call for your Indonesian maid. She's always an Indonesian, incidentally. You can't call for any help. And Allah is now going to punish you with a punishment you richly deserve, because you had a less than a passing acquaintance with the Quran. You had eyes you could not see, you had ears you could not hear, you had hearts you could not understand. It doesn't matter whether you are Christian or Jew or Hindu or Buddhist or Confucian or anything. The same God who created you is the same God who sent the Quran and sent Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. This is the punishment.
My name is Anwar. I'd just like to ask, in terms of Islamic banking and Islamic financing, we all know that riba is haram, period. Those who participate in haram activities are considered haram. There is no two way around it. I believe we have got, I don't know, maybe 70-80% of those who are involved in the financing and banking of Islamic in Malaysia are also Muslims. Number one question, why are they still working there? Number two question, okay, I thought that all of us Muslims understand we base Islam on Al-Quran and Sunnah. It has not changed, but from Rasulullah's time. Okay, I assume that all the Muslims in the banking sector understand and read the Al-Quran and the Sunnah. I also assume those in the government also understand what's in the Al-Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, we have seen a lot of Muslims, okay, being put down by this financing system. The so-called say the difference between conventional banking and Islamic banking. We all see, conventional banking you earn 10 ringgit, Islamic banking you earn 12 ringgit, and you call it Islamic banking. What is this? Okay, I would like to ask the panel, especially from the banks, are we not Muslim who have got self-conscious? Do we not work for halal living? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Maybe you ask first, then the panel will answer.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya kemudian dari Rawang. Masalah saya bank muamalat. Tapi macam ganti cakap, dia bank dia. Tapi bank Islam, kalau bolehnya bank Islam semua sama. Maknanya mesti sama dia punya aturan. Okey, macam Syekh cakap, tetap dia riba. Okey, bank saya, rumah saya 54,000, saya dah bayar 46,000. Masalah saya, mungkin ada masalah lah, saya ada kelewatan membayar.
I'm Eunice. Good morning to all.
Morning.
Honorable panel, and a very special thanks to PPIM for organizing this forum and to bring us together. Okay, until today, as you see the voices here represent, we are asking so many questions. Let me put one question first. Alright, if bank is on the customer's side, we don't want injustices, we want justice for everyone. Why is the bank giving the bank terminals to all these fraudsters continuously to cheat the public? We are not able to answer this question, but we want the Bank Negara, conventional bank, all relevant banks to answer this question. Why is the bank terminal being given to all kind of fraudsters? Number two, what are the actions taken by these banks to overcome or to diminish or to lessen these problems, which is a burden to the public, to the bank users? We don't want a bank today. You just heard a few moments ago. We do not want a bank. It's just because our families are burdened, our people are burdened, and I wish this also goes to the Prime Minister's department and all people who are responsible for what we are here today, this Saturday morning, early morning. Actually, it is not easy for us to be here. The second question I have to bring forward is, are there any special third-party debt collectors assigned by your bank to harass all these victims continuously till we don't have a peaceful life? I think here, the public here can tell you how many of us are harassed by the bank debt collectors daily, by bank lawyers, by all the different, thank you, by all these different threats that we receive daily in our lives. Are we Malaysians moving towards a progressive country, or are we going backwards? And the third thing I need to ask is, what is the solution given by this bank? We want an immediate solution given by all these banks, and especially Bank Negara, that what action will be taken against this fraudsters and how can we recover back our money. With this, I wish to thank all those who are participating, all those like Prof. Imran and our Professor Omar, and all these people who have been really giving a listening ear to the public. I think we will move towards a better country. I really hope the Prime Minister is here today so I can voice out.
Thank you very much. I can assure you PPIM will raise this matter with Bank Negara, but PPIM will bring your funds, your grievances to Bank Negara's attention almost in the next few days.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think we can answer because she's not from Bank Negara. So, yes, any other question? We have another 20 minutes or 15 minutes left.
Short question to ask. I'm so sorry because I'm just in the middle of this event, so sorry. I just want to ask about the interest rate of the Islamic. Sebab saya perasan.
There's no interest in something.
Yeah, there can be a profit rate, but it's still not the interest, right? It just tukar nama saja kepada profit, okay? So that is one thing that you make us confused, okay? So the second part is I want to ask, if let's say you're doing something like Islamic, so I can make it, let's say, compare between the conventional rates and also the Islamic rate. The Islamic rate is a little bit, I don't know whether it's a little bit higher or it's actually higher rate compared than the conventional rate. Okay, but to me my point is here, due to this interest rate is high, but it's Islamic, by right as Islamic, the interest rate should not be higher than the conventional, because if it's higher than conventional, it's like a burden to us. Because we do it as Islam, we should help each other, right? So that is my point lah. But if you can answer it, my question, thank you very much.
The Prophet ﷺ has said, whether riba is big or it is small, it is still riba. Number one. And he says whether riba is big, 20%, 30%, or small, 2%, 1%, you know, gram. What's the name of that bank in Bangladesh? Nobel Prize? Grameen, yeah, Grameen, and they get a Nobel Prize for that. Whether riba is big or small, the result is still the same. It just takes more time. It ends up in destitution and poverty. So it doesn't matter whether it is bigger or smaller, it is still haram. Why does the money lender lend you on interest either through the front door, conventional, or through the back door, so-called Islamic? Why? Sometimes he does that in order to get you a pound of flesh. You know about the British Sheikh, don't you? Who wrote that excellent book on riba? Never heard about him?
Shakespeare.
That's right. What's the name of the book? Merchant of Venice, the best book on riba you can find. Shakespeare. Sometimes he lends you on interest for your pound of flesh, so that his gain would be your loss. وَأَكْلِهِمْ أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِالْبَاطِلِ, says the Quran. But sometimes he lends you an interest for a more sinister objective. And for that you must read John Perkins. Take a note. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He lends you on interest because he wants to enslave you. And so you no longer have freedom. You cannot do what you want to do because the slave master says, no, you're going to pay a price. You can't pay that price. So you have to vote as Malaysia voted. Remember when Malaysia voted in favor of the resolution? The Security Council resolution? For the use of force against Iraq, Saddam Hussein? Yeah. And all the Malaysian people, all were opposed. So Dr. Mahathir said we couldn't do otherwise. If we had not voted this way, they'll destroy our economy. Okay? And so don't complain about whether the rate of interest is higher or lower. It is still haram. And the result will be the same. It just takes more time. They want to impoverish you, reduce you to poverty, and that's why there are demonstrations in New York now.
And here.
And the American people are now surrounding Wall Street. This little booklet was written at the request of the Director General of the Prime Minister's Department of Economic Planning. Can't remember his name now. He attended a lecture of mine. He said, write this, but don't make it more than 50 pages. The gold dinar and the silver dirham. Islam and the future of money. And we're going to have it soon in Bahasa. This tells you in a nutshell the story of money and how they have used money to reach where they have reached today, where they have enslaved you.
Now before I go to my question, the statement that I would like to make is that you're asking the wrong people for the solution. You're asking Ben Bernanke for the solution of the global economic problem. He is the one who's created it. So you're asking the bankers how to solve a problem. That's wrong. They create the problem, we can't ask them how to solve it. Correct? Okay, now the next thing is that yes, we can live without the banks because yeah, they've been around for the past 300-400 years. We've been living for many years before that. The solution is in the muamalah, get into real business, okay? And the solution is in the Quran. One of it is that just pay them the principal and don't pay them the interest. That's what they need to do actually to solve the economic problem. Okay? My question straightforward to Sheikh Imran Hosein. What are the role of the ulama? It's so baffling. Why are they being so silent, number one? Or why are they knowing the fact that they are wrong, they still endorse it? And why is that we have to follow that particular group of ulamas who come out and say that yes, this is Islamic, that's Sharia compliant, who come from that particular part of the world? Because I find that there is two distinguished points. When there are ulamas who are not from that particular part of the world say something, it's not accepted because it is not from that school or not from that university or not from that organization. Why is that the ulama are so silent, number one, and why are they the ones who condone this? What are they? Don't they know these problems? And why is this happening, Sheikh Imran? Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Hadith of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Listen carefully. Yushiku ya'ti ala nasi zaman. It will not be long before that time will come upon you. Meaning akhiru zaman. La yabqa min al-Islam illa ismu. When nothing will remain of Islam but the name. This is not Imran Hosein, This is Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam speaking. So don't be angry with me. وَلَا يَبْقَى مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا رَسْمُ. And when nothing will remain of the Quran but the traces of the writing, mechanically recited, nobody following the Quran. مَسَاجِدُهُمْ. I'm not talking about Shah Alam. مَسَاجِدُهُمْ آمِرَةٌ وَهِيَ خَرَابٌ مِنَ الْهُدَى. The masajid, plural of masjid, at that time, would be grand structures, impressive structures, but devoid of guidance. Now listen to the last piece. Ulama'uhum, the ulama of that age of darkness. Sharrun nasi mimman tahta adim as-sama. The ulama of that age of darkness, when nothing remains of Islam but the name, would be the worst people beneath the sky. Said Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Min indihim takhrujul fitna wa fihim ta'ud. They would be the centers of corruption, corrupting the people. So this is an ominous warning to us concerning the quality and the status of ulama in the age of fitan. I have reached the state of frustration now. So as a result of this, I am now saying, if you differ with me when I say that this paper money is bogus and fraudulent and haram, if you differ with me when I say that this so-called Islamic banking has backdoor riba in it, well, fine, let the people choose. And if they are blind, they'll choose blindly and they'll pay the price for it. Because the people must have the choice to make. We don't want to take that away from them. But if you come after us and you say that we are wrong, and you want to silence us, then we will respond with this challenge after we have no more patience. We'll say, come, you and I, and let us raise our hands and pray to the one who always listens and ask him to curse and to punish with eternal punishment whosoever is wrong on this issue. Come, that's our challenge to you.
Assalamualaikum. Okey, nama saya Samima. Saya ada akaun bank Sultan Bank ni.
Sultan Bank?
Ya.
Sekarang jadi CNB ya?
Ya. Saya memang menyimpan duit sekali je. Lepas tu saya tak tahu bila masa dia combine. Sebab saya ni memang lawan yang bodoh kan. Duit saya, duit 1 minggu kat dalam bank ni. 1 minggu punya kerja tahu, walaupun 100 tu, 1 minggu punya gaji kerja saya. Okey? Saya tak tahu bila dia combine. Lepas tu bila saya datang, saya tanya mana Sultan Bank tu dah jadi CIMB. Saya datang dekat sana. Dia kata, close account. Dia cop je. Cop saja. Saya tanya mana duit saya. Dia kata dah cari saya tak jumpa. Itu je jawapan dia. Sekarang saya tak tahu mana duit saya CIMB pegang ni. Walaupun RM100 saya nak duit saya.
Okey, nanti kita jawab tu.
Soalan saya simple saja. Saya nak tanya Dr. Azman Muhammad Noor dan juga Datin Aziah Omar. Satu soalan simple. Perlukah kita kepada bank? Dan boleh tak kita sebagai orang Islam hidup tanpa bank? Can we live without the bank? That's the question. Do we need bank in Islam?
Now, at this time. Kalau long time kita boleh build up punya dina semua, now.
Yes.
Maknanya orang macam saya tak boleh gerak lah kan?
Yes, now. You need now.
Think kalau tak, boleh? Ada soalan? Kenalkan diri.
Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Hamidun, ahli PPIM juga dan mangsa pada bank.
Tapi kerana Tuan datang dari antarabangsa, saya harap Tuan juga bergerak untuk mewujudkan permahkamah syariah di antarabangsa, supaya harta-harta umat Islam walau di mana saja berada dan tidak berpuas hati dengan mahkamah biasa ni, boleh kita lagi tuntut di dalam syariah. Kat situ barulah harta kita dapat diselamatkan, dan wang-wang Baitul Mal itu boleh digunakan di dalam saluran mempertahankan hak umat Islam. Jangan kerana Islam PAS dan Islam UMNO kita jadi mangsa. Saya bukan ahli politik, banyak orang sekalipun, tapi saya tidak menerhaka dengan negara ini dan bumi ini. Lillahi ta'ala.
Maybe last one, our friend here who has been waiting since 7:30 just now.
Hello. Good morning.
Yes.
My name is William Hui. Years ago, when Bank Islam set up, I read Chinese paper that Bank Islam help Malay free interest. Free interest. Only service charge only. Now I was shocked, man. 300,000 pay 700,000. I think this is something wrong. I hope PINC you charge interest, take back the interest lah. You the Muslim. Yeah, you got many millions Because I got 10,000 members. I am NGO also.
Canteen Association. 10,000 schools. Yeah.
And all the Malay, I say, congratulations, now Islam take care of you lah. No interest one. Buy house also no interest. Is so happy lah. Now I was shocked, man. How is this? And bank make millions of dollars. I hope I suggest write to Najib, Satu Malaysia, help the Muslim lah. Yeah. Pay back the interest.
Thank you.
Just going to say something about what identify yourself. My name is Alawiyah Abdurrahman. Dr. Azman mentioned just now about the bank being created between Rasul SAW and Sayyidatina Khadijah when they established the Kirat, when Rasul SAW went to was the agent of Siti Khadijah. Now a lot of ulama use that as the justification of them allowing the bank.
No, shut down.
Anyway, this is not right. It is a clear-cut kirat between Rasul SAW and Khadijah. So the banks now are not doing that. They are establishing the bank under the law of fractional reserve banking, using names of instead of riba, other names like commission or fee or whatever.
Any other name?
So we have to stop the shaitan from using this noble blessed transaction of Rasul SAW and Sayyidatina Khadijah as not the bank that they see today. So that's just right.
Okay, I think that's
last one, this very last one.
Thank you very much for your comment. Very good example and a very accurate practice which was done by the Prophet himself. He was the Mudari for Khadijah. I was mentioning another example actually for another contract, which is a contract of loan which was done by Zubair bin Awam. You are correct. Sometimes there are, as I mentioned, there are of course loopholes, there are weaknesses, in implementing. So even because of the complaints from the public now, I was informed that there is suggestions to move away. They may come up with something else, instead of mudarabah, because the thing is not so transparent. They have the reserve, profit equalization reserve. The amount they distribute actually is not the real. The real performance does not reflect the real performance, the real profit obtained gained by the mudarib. So sometimes the bank has to top up. So this is fictional, I agree. okay, as Professor Omar mentioned. So they are trying to move away, but for the time being, as I mentioned to you, some of them, they were given permission on the interim basis, okay, for temporal basis. So they are going to review from time to time. And of course, in this case, we have to raise complaints, okay, and arguments, okay, so that to make sure that they are not far away. They shouldn't only call it Islamic, but it must be Islamic. Another issue is about pricing, whether it is ethical or not ethical. Okay, of course, this is another issue which is also very, very important. Of course, you can charge expensive price, but okay, from ethical value, akhlaq, okay, in Islam, you have to take also into consideration, okay, the right of others, and also, okay, the help, the need, because you have to give assistance and okay, help to others. If you are oppressing them by charging them very expensive price, not only, I mean, in everything, okay, you sell to them, this is unethical actually. That's why in the West now they are promoting ethical banking. But ethical banking does not mean Islamic banking, okay? So what happened now, to me, yes, this is also very important. Then the Islamic bankers have to take into consideration, okay, where, okay, their pricing should be ethical. Okay, the pricing, and they should be transparent. Okay, the price must be known, the way they calculate must be known, and there shouldn't be any oppressions, or there shouldn't be any fictitious or anything which is hidden, any fancy transactions behind the whole transaction. Wallahu a'lam.
Terima kasih Tuan Azman, terima kasih, thank you very much Sheikh Imran Hosein dan Datin Azian Umar, dan terima kasih kepada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian. Saya berjanji apa juga hujah ataupun masalah yang diberikan ini akan dihantar. We will send a memorandum to the Prime Minister at the end of the day on the 3-day session here, and we will try to meet the Prime Minister himself, especially on the points of housing dan sebagainya dan Islamic banking. So I think on that note, saya dengan sukacitanya menyiarkan forum ini ditutup lah. Terima kasih kepada semua. Terima kasih.
إلهي لست للفردوس أعلى ولا أقوى على نار الجحيم الله فهب لي توبة واغفر ذنوبي فإنك غافر الذنب العظيم إلهي لست للفردوس أعلى ولا أقوى على نار الجحيم الله فهب لي توبة واغفر ذنوبي فإنك غافر الذنب العظيم Tuhanku, aku tidak layak untuk syurgamu, tetapi aku tidak pula sanggup menanggung siksa nerakamu. dari itu kurniakanlah ampunan kepadaku, ampunkanlah dosaku. Sesungguhnya Engkaulah pengampun dosa-dosa besar. Tuhanku, aku tidak layak untuk syurgamu, tetapi aku tidak pula sanggup menanggung siksa nerakamu. Dari itu kurniakanlah ampunan kepadaku, ampunkanlah dosaku. Sesungguhnya Engkaulah pengampun dosa-dosa besar. Ilahi nasturil firdausi a'la wala aqwa ala naril jahim. Allah fahabli tawbatan waghfir